Danny, welcome back to The Watchman for another great adventure here in the land of Israel.
Always pleased to be with you.
Yeah, always great to have you, my friend. And today, wow, this is a special one, Danny. The legendary Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, people at home have probably heard of them. Look, this is the most significant find, archaeological find in the history of Israel, and that is saying something. So, okay, let's start with what exactly the Dead Sea Scrolls are, Danny. And by the way, they were found in the cliffs just over our shoulders right here.
We are standing in the area where all the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. Cave 1 and 2 are actually behind you, and cave number 3 is there in the distance. Cave 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are about a mile that way. And cave 11 is right behind us, over here. Okay? Between 1947 to 1956, in the total of these 11 caves, over 16,000 fragments of scrolls were uncovered. 20 of them are more or less complete and intact. The rest are little tiny pieces in some cases.
Which are pieced together,
yes,
meticulously.
To this day, it has not really been completed because there's a lot of guesswork that can always be added. It's like making a big puzzle with half of it missing, and there's no big picture in the back to follow.
And with delicate 2,000-year-old material that, God forbid, you rip one or...
And in the past, you know how they pieced them together? With Scotch tape. It was a terrible mistake. It left a terrible stain. And now the big battle is to keep the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Israel Museum where they are stored from continuous deterioration. The best thing for them would be to be left alone in the caves. Okay, because here it's very dry, not a typical day to demonstrate this. It's very hot, it's very dry. You have salinity from the Dead Sea, which also helps for the preservation. And we're now trying to do our best to fight against the erosion, the deterioration of the scrolls when they are in the museum.
Yeah, they probably in many ways, Danny, may have been better preserved if they stayed in the caves, but man, I don't believe in coincidences. And the fact that they were found in 1947, 1948, as the modern state of Israel was reborn, I think is very telling.
And here we are, returning to our homeland and finding texts by our ancestors left here to be read again.
It's almost like a roadmap. And by the way, we're not allowed in these caves, unfortunately. The Israeli Antiquities Authority has very strict rules, but you can get a very clear view of them now. Now, who found the scrolls? This is a very interesting wrinkle to the story, Danny. Who actually found the scrolls in these caves?
Yes, the official version, it was a chance find by two Bedouins. Winter of 1946, they're wandering in this area looking for a lost goat. That's the official version. I suspect that they may have been scouting for antiquities, but one way or the other, they found a cave, which is later listed as cave number 1, with 10 jars. 8 are empty, one has a lot of brown soil in it, according to their report, and the 10th one has 7 wrapped scrolls. Now, they not know what they're holding. They're not sure of what it is.
And they were kids, right? They were young,
No,
weren't they?
no, they were in their 20s, according to the photos of the days. And so they go to an antiquity dealer in Bethlehem. That's where the antiquity shops are to this day. The first guy takes a look at this and tells them, guys, you're taking a big risk because this is from a synagogue. He could tell that it's Hebrew writing, and you should take it back to the synagogue or both you and I will go into jail. The British are still around, I'm reminding you. Okay? The Bedouins, as you say in English, thought maybe they'll get a second opinion, and they go to another dealer known as Mr. Kandu, who has maybe less of an ethic moral. He decides to buy it. He tries to play a poker face saying, oh, they're probably worth nothing. He pays him the value of $28 for the first of the 7 Dead Sea Scrolls.
For the greatest archaeological find in the history of Israel.
Yes. And then
I'd say that's a bargain.
Yeah, not bad. For 2,000-year-old manuscripts. And then he goes to Professor Eliezer Lipa Sukenik of the Hebrew University in the Institute of Archaeology. As a young student, I used to work in the same office, by the way. Yeah. And he introduces it to him. And I can only imagine Sukenik's jaw dropping when he takes a first look at those scrolls. Because as a scholar, he knew right away, this is not modern Hebrew, it's not even medieval Hebrew. The shape of the letters was in use 2,000 years ago. Now, how can a font How can writing that is 2,000 years old be found today on animal skin, on organic material?
And they were in decent condition?
In pretty good condition. The first 7 scrolls were easily readable.
Out of 16,000 fragments.
Yes.
Staggering number. What a treasure trove. And Danny, you know, it's interesting. It's still remote. We are in the desert right now. But I can imagine at that time in the 1940s, around the rebirth of Israel, it was even more remote. There were probably very few people who came out this way, I would think.
Yes, in fact, the day that Sukenik ends up buying some of the scrolls, he returns from Bethlehem with the scrolls in his arm. And when he opens them on the radio, he hears something quite interesting, the UN voting for the birth of the State of Israel. It was the 29th of November, 1947. The day that the UN approves of the Jews to have a nation, a Jew is holding manuscripts that were written by Jews here 2,000 years ago.
Proving the ancestral claim to the land.
That's quite a move.
Yeah, that is. I don't think that's a coincidence. So, how soon, Danny, before authorities knew, okay, we have a very significant find here?
Once Sukenik announces these scrolls are real and they are 2,000 years old, this is world sensation. This gets world headlines, okay? Along with the other headlines about the war erupting here.
It's proof of the Bible.
Indeed, it's proof of the antiquity and continuation of Jewish presence here in ancient times. And the big hunt begins.
Well, Danny, this is the big one. This is the most significant site out of the 11 caves. This is cave number 4, some 90% of the Dead Sea Scrolls found right here over the horizon where we're standing.
After the discovery of cave number 3, about a mile in that direction, the archaeologists thought that's the end of the story. But then Bedouins start bringing many scraps to the dealers in Jerusalem, and they tell that's coming from a new cave, cave number 4. And indeed, most of the scrolls came out of this cave, which, as you can see, can barely be accessed from the bottom. And these people also came here to be in the desert, to go out of Jerusalem for both political reasons and spiritual reasons. But when they heard apparently that an enemy is coming, they decided to hide their library. And cave 4 was apparently the main deposit. And after running out of space here, they spread them in the other caves.
Yeah, and it's a bit more remote than the other caves and a bit more separated, it seems like.
It seems like it's more difficult to access it, although you can actually slide into it. And after cave 4 became public, then we realized that it's linked to a site behind us, whose Arabic name is Qumran. Now, we don't know its ancient name, we don't know its modern name, so we still call it Qumran. But apparently Qumran is where the people of the Dead Sea Scrolls lived.
So Danny, clearly the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls, look, there were enemies in Jerusalem, political, as we said, and spiritual. What's very clear is they came out here, you don't come out here to start a party. They came out here to be alone, to be remote, to be removed.
To follow their own lifestyle and not be interrupted. And also by being here as Jews and not in Jerusalem, it's expressing their disagreement with how Jerusalem is handled. They're apparently with a big conflict with the priests of Jerusalem, and they say, we will be here, we will wait for a Messiah, and when he will arrive, then we will take over. One of the scrolls describes how the temple would be operated when they'll be in charge again.
It brings to mind the fact, just bringing it to the current day, that the Jewish people are not occupiers of this land.
You kidding me? What can be a better proof than a 2,000-year-old scroll in Hebrew of the Old Testament found here?
Up next, we visit the ruins of ancient Qumran to see how the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls lived and why they hid the scrolls. Don't move.